Hi, my name is Nick, and in today's video I will be taking a first look at the Efneo 3-speed planetary crankset. This was ordered from Poland. I ordered it on a Sunday night, and 10 days later I got it in the mail in United States. I purchased this Efneo GTRO crankset with my own money and purchased it on sale. They had a coupon code. The coupon code brought the price down to about $400, and then there's an additional $10 or so for shipping. So it's definitely not a cheap crankset by all means. So this is the box it was shipped in. It looks to be pretty thick padding here, and maybe this whole thing comes right on out. Also inside the box, it looks like there's a bottom bracket, maybe some paper, and also the left crank arm. I did opt for the shorter crank arm, so we'll take a closer look at that as well. In this bottom bracket, it looks like it's already pre-greased, and it is a special proprietary bottom bracket from what I read online. So again, got the left crank. Looks like some spacers for the bottom bracket. And the crankset with the trigger shifters that I ordered should be in this packaging right here. And we'll go ahead and take a look at what's inside this bag. Let me get some, I could get a towel later, I'll just put it on top. And here is the crankset. We'll go ahead and take a close look at this crank. It is pretty heavy. Let's take a look at the right crank arm. It is square taper, as you can see. The bottom bracket interface is square, and I did mention that it is a proprietary bottom bracket that you need to use. The one I received and ordered is 28 teeth, and that's for the 1-to-1 gear ratio. There should be 28 of these. This is the shift cable that comes out of the crankset. Right now it's in a 1-to-1 ratio. As I turn the crankset, it moves the same speed as the crank arms. Then there's a second gear, which is a 1.43-to-1 ratio, or 1-to-1.43, which is equivalent to a 40-tooth chain ring. And then the third gear is a 1-to-1.79, which is equivalent to a 50-tooth chain ring option. On the inside of the right crank arm might be the serial number, and there's some information behind here about that it's patented. This is the reaction lever here, and to prevent the crank from spinning in the different gears, this sits on your frame, or in my case it might be the boom of your trike or recumbent if you're using it for that. And it looks like they've pre-wrapped it with some tape to prevent some sharp edges cutting into any carbon fiber. The center of the bottom bracket to the middle of the reaction arm is supposed to be about 33 millimeters, according to an email exchange I received from technicians over at Efneo. And the crank arm I ordered was the shortest one at 152 millimeters. And let's see, from the middle to middle, it looks to be about 155. Might be 152, but it looks more like 155. I don't know, maybe 152. Yep, 152. There were three options of shifter. There's the trigger shifter, which I opted for. You could get bar end shifters, or you can also get grip shifters if you like. I just like trigger shifters because if your hands are sweaty, grip shifters might slip a little bit. So the trigger shifters, even with sweaty hot hands in the summer, you can still push on these. And the thing about this trigger shifter is you could switch the gears while you are stationary, and that's a huge plus over front derailleurs. So as you can see, we're in gear 1 here, which is on the crankset a 1-to-1 ratio. It spins the same speed as the crank arm is moving. All right, to shift over to gear 2, it's like going to a lower gear, and that's it. You're in gear 2. So that's equivalent to the 40 tooth. Now if we take a look at this pin and watch it close to the crankset, it spins a little faster. So as you can see, the teeth are spinning a little faster than the crank arm itself. I could put tape there so you could get a closer idea. Okay, now that I have some tape there, as you can see, the tape is lined up with this crank arm here. And I hold on to the reaction arm lever, and you can see that as you turn, the chain ring spins faster than the crank arm. And it does feel like there's a little bit of resistance here, so maybe that's the gears turning and that I'm losing a little bit of power. So eventually, when you come back, it did one extra circle. To go to the equivalent of the 50 tooth, I guess it's the lower one. Nope, it's the upper one. And now you're equivalent to the 50 tooth. So let's take a look at that. As you spin it, I could feel that there's more resistance, quite a bit more resistance. So I think I'm losing watts here. Yep. It's kind of hard. It's not as easy to move as an empty. There we go. Moving it back to the first gear, you have to push and click it back in as if you were going to a higher gear if you use Shimano's trigger shifters. So as I can tell, there's definitely drag in the second and third settings, the 40 tooth and the 50 tooth equivalent. And they claim that there's only a 2% difference, but I'm not sure. I haven't put it on yet, and there might be more power difference than that, or more losses. Okay, so let's take a look at this bottom bracket. I got the standard 68 millimeters wide. Hopefully it's for English threading. This is BC 1.37 by 24, and it looks like it threads in. One side should, okay, there we go. One side had to remove because you want to put one side in first and then screw the other side in. And it looks like there's some bolts to cover the end of the cranks to securely fit it onto the bottom bracket. These appear to be some washers, but we do have additional washers here in the bag that we can take a look at. The zip blocks or zip ties are for the reaction arm. And when you attach the reaction arm to your crankset or boom, you want to secure it there. So you want to wrap it around the frame set or the chainstay, wherever it is, and this reaction arm to have it secure in place. The left crank arm does state LASCO on it, CF-218, and this should also be 152 millimeters. And it looks to be right at the same size. Midway up from this crankset is how you adjust the cable or insert a new cable. I pulled this sleeve off, and let's see if I could get a close look at this. This is about as close as I could get to look at it, and maybe I could turn this a little, but as you see, there's some screws right there that may or may not, that you may have to undo if you want to stick another cable in there. So you only want to undo one side of the screws here. Let me get that back in focus. So the two screws here are if you need to change the cable, but I'll go ahead and measure out the distance now. As you can tell, the cable here is pretty long for the mechanical trigger shifter. So I measured this cable to be 53.5 inches. That seems fairly long. So in centimeters, that's 136 centimeters for the length of this cable. The left crank arm by itself comes in at exactly 200 grams. The right side of the crank arm is definitely not light. It's not advertised to be light, and that is 1,293 grams. The shifter here is approximately 145 grams. And the bottom bracket's not advertised to be light, to being light either. And let's see, that's about 367 grams. So as you can tell, this whole system is not light. It comes into a little over 2 kilograms, or a total of 4.42 pounds. Inside the bag, just some information, just one card. It's not multiple pages, refers you to their website. There's nothing on the back, as you can see. They provide us with a total of 8 zip ties, 3 black and 3 white. I guess for aesthetics, what color you like the most, you could put that on your bike. There are also 2 more of these thin washers or spacers, possibly for the bottom bracket. Looks like this bottom bracket fits in pretty well. Let's see, I just turn this and there we go. And maybe the spacers are to keep it sealed. And then on the other end, you could probably put this bolt in and screw that in here. And I could try that with this other side to see how it fits. Go ahead and remove this bolt, and it's going to probably go 180 degrees away. And it doesn't look like I need the spacers here, but maybe I do, and it doesn't seem like it goes all the way in. But I don't want to push it in too hard, otherwise I need a crank extractor tool to remove it. Oh, actually it will go this way if you're looking from the top downward on the bike, with this side being the right side. Well, there you have it, the contents of this Efneo 3-speed planetary gearbox. If you'd like to see an installation of this, feel free to subscribe, as I'll have that video out shortly. And let me know if you have any questions in the comments below. As always, have a most wonderful day, and thank you very much for watching if you made it this far.